Good morning and welcome to Maghull Baptist Church Online. It's so lovely to have you join with us this morning on Sunday the 19th of July. We offer you a very warm welcome from wherever you may be watching this from. These last few weeks we've been looking at people in the Bible who had close encounters with Jesus and how by stepping out in faith Jesus changed their lives. Let's open in prayer and then listen to today's story from Jess and Sophia. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this new day and that we are able to join together in these strange times from wherever we are. We thank you that you know each one of us. You love and care for us and that we matter to you. We thank you that you remind us in your word, do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous hand. We think of those known to us this week who are ill, in hospital, grieving, or dealing with difficult situations. And we pray that they will know your love, comfort, and peace at this time. We thank you too for answers to prayer this week and that you are a loving God who cares for all our needs. Amen.
So the Bible reading today is from Mark chapter 5 and verses 21 to 43. When Jesus had again crossed over by boat to the other side of the lake, a large crowd gathered round him whilst he was by the lake. Then one of the synagogue rulers, named Jairus, came there. Seeing Jesus, he fell to his knees and pleaded earnestly with him, "My little daughter is dying. Please come and put your hands on her so that she will be healed and live." So Jesus went with him. A large crowd followed and pressed around him. And a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. She had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors and had spent all she had. Yet instead of getting better, she grew worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak, because she thought, if I just touch his clothes, I will be healed. Immediately her bleeding stopped and she felt in her body she was freed from her suffering. At once, Jesus realized that power had gone from him. He turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my clothes?" "You see the people crowding against you," his disciples answered, "and yet you can ask, 'Who touched me?'" But Jesus kept looking around to see who had done it. Then the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell at his feet and, trembling with fear, told him the whole truth. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." While Jesus was still speaking, some men came from the house of Jairus, the synagogue ruler. "Your daughter is dead," they said. "Why bother the teacher any more?" Ignoring what they said, Jesus told the synagogue ruler, "Don't be afraid, just believe." He did not let anyone follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. When they came to the home of the synagogue ruler, Jesus saw a commotion with people crying and wailing loudly. He went in and said to them, "Why all this commotion and wailing? The child is not dead, but asleep." But they laughed at him. After he put them all out, he took the child's father and mother and the disciples who were with him, and they went in where the child was. He took her by the hand and said to her, "Talitha kum," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, get up." Immediately the girl stood up and walked around. She was 12 years old. At this, they were completely astonished. He gave strict orders not to let anyone know about this, and told them to give her something to eat.
So thank you, Jess, for the reading, and to Sophia too for bringing it alive again with your Lego animations. You really do get the best jobs when we do these Sunday services. So I hope you've been enjoying this short series on people who had close encounters with Jesus. And like with the other weeks, we're going to unpick the story a little bit and see how we can relate it to our lives today. And this week, you're lucky. You get 2 for the price of 1. 2 encounters with Jesus, 2 amazing miracles, all within this short passage. So let's begin, and first of all look at Jairus. So what do we know about him? Well, not a lot's the answer. We're told that he was a leader or ruler in the synagogue in a town called Capernaum. Now that town would have been very familiar to Jesus, as it was where he'd set up home at the beginning of his ministry. So could he have known Jesus already? Possibly. But even if he hadn't, he certainly would have known of his reputation. Now, Jairus' position in the synagogue would have meant he'd had responsibilities for looking after the building and arranging the various services. Now, in a Baptist church like we go to, we have roles called deacons who do similar things. If you've been part of a Church of England church, it may be similar to a church warden. But with this position, Jairus would have been a respected man in the town, and someone the local Jews would have looked up to. So we can assume he'd be seen as somebody who was calm and authoritative. But when we first read of Jairus in this story, we don't see any of those characteristics at all. What we find is a man who was desperate, fearful, probably feeling helpless and running out of options. His child was very ill, and he was searching for any way of making her better. So picture the scene again. Jesus had come across the lake in the boat, and there was a crowd already there to meet him. Word must have got around town that he was on his way, and so much so that Jairus has left his home and his sick daughter to go and find Jesus. So you can imagine there to be lots of excitement when the boat landed ashore, the noise and bustling of the crowd, no doubt talking to each other about what they'd heard of this man. Jesus started making his way towards the town, and then from amongst the noisy and eager crowd, Jairus appears in front of him and literally throws himself at Jesus' feet, begging that he comes to heal his daughter. This respected man of authority in the town now bowing at the feet of Jesus. Now, to Jairus' great relief, Jesus agrees to go. Have you ever had times when things in your life just feel out of control? Stuff's happening, you're desperate to change, but you just can't seem to be able to do anything about it. Whatever you try, you feel uneasy, anxious, fearful, afraid, unsure what the future will bring, and possibly feel helpless to be able to do anything about it. Now, I can truly appreciate that it's not a happy place to be. I'm very conscious that the last few months may have left a few people feeling like this, trapped in their homes, unable to see loved ones, scared of whether they'll get ill, or if they do, how will they then care for others? And on top of that, uncertainty about whether their jobs will still be there when lockdown's over. And we have now started to hear news of businesses folding, shedding jobs. So I fear that there'll be more and more of us feeling in a very similar way in the months ahead. So where can you turn to when you feel like this? In recent months, we've seen an increasing number of people doing exactly what Jairus did and turn to God for help. Many churches are seeing a surge in their online attendance. People who've never gone through doors of a church now see their solace through the church. So if you joined us today and some parts of this story ring true for you, maybe like Jairus, you're uncertain of your future or have things going on in your life that you feel you can't control, then I want to assure you that you're not alone with this. God's with you. Whatever you're going through, he loves you. Your worries, your concerns matter to him, and he wants to be an active part of your life and walk alongside you and make good the parts that you're struggling with. And we as a church do too. So if you've got any needs at the moment or any problems you feel are just too big for you to handle, or you're worried, you're lonely, or you just need someone to talk to, then get in touch with us through the contact details you'll see at the end of this video. And me or one of the other members of the church will do everything we can to help you. So returning to the story, we pick up the journey to Jairus' house, where the focus suddenly turns to somebody else, the person we only really know as the sick woman. Like Jairus, she seemed to be enjoying a torrid time. She'd been ill for 12 years, which, if you notice, was also the same age as Jairus' daughter, one of a number of parallels between these two encounters with Jesus. She was seeing no way out of her predicament. She'd seen many doctors, none who were able to help her or cure her. She spent all the money she had on trying to get better, but her health was going in the other way. So similarly to Jairus, she felt helpless, desperate, and had run out of options. But what she did was quite remarkable, and it's important we read the words again quite literally here. She said, if I just touch his clothes, I will be healed. Did you notice what she said? I will be healed. Not maybe, not might, not I wonder if I will. And guess what? She was. What a miracle, and it must have been an amazing delight for her. Jesus, after discovering it was the woman who touched his clothes, said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be free from your suffering." So there was nothing special about Jesus' cloak here, nothing remarkable about how the woman touched it. Key to this was the word that's at the core of both of these stories today: faith. It was her faith that meant she was healed. So what is this faith? What did Jesus really mean by it? Now, we use the word faith quite loosely these days, don't we? We say things like, "You've got to have faith in me." It is actually a statement founded in an unease or an uncertainty about actually the opposite happening. But we read that faith here is very different and reflected in the words the sick woman said, "I will be healed." There's a verse in the book of Hebrews, chapter 11, verse 1, that sums it up really well. It says, "Faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see." Let me say that again. Faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. So this complete confidence of what Jesus will do for her was at the centre of this story for the sick woman. And it's why the Bible teaches that faith is the key to everything for the Christian. It's at the core of our Christian living. That confidence and absolute belief in God and the comfort and certainty of his promises. So the woman's faith had seen her healed, an amazing miracle performed in front of all of these people, including Jairus. Now, I do wonder how Jairus felt when he saw all this going on with the sick woman. I'm sure if there was watches around in those days, he'd be doing a bit of this, come on, hurry up, that woman's not that ill, but his daughter was close to death. Jesus, hurry up. And then came the news he really didn't want to hear. A messenger came from his home saying that his daughter had sadly died. But the messenger also went on to say, so don't bother the teacher anymore. It's as though Jesus could only help if the child was sick. But now she was dead, well, that was beyond his capability. But what did Jesus say? Don't be afraid, just believe. It's that faith again. Don't be afraid, have faith. I got this. Do you feel that sometimes we're guilty of thinking like the messenger? Do we limit what we believe God can do in our lives? Do you maybe think that things have just gone in the past that mean you're just beyond repair? Do you think that circumstances are just too big for you now? It'll never be right again. It's an easy state of mind to fall into, but there's a wonderful passage in Ephesians chapter 3, verse 20 that I love, and it says, Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work in us. Not just more than we ask, but more than we could ever imagine. So whatever your situation, whatever you're going through, nothing is impossible for God. When they arrived at Jairus' house, they were greeted by a number of his family, grieving the loss of his daughter. There was loud wailing and crying, as you'd expect. Now Jesus challenged them and asked them why they were doing this, because the child was only asleep. Now, if you put yourselves in their shoes at that time, you could understand how they may have been quite taken aback by this comment. Just asleep? Be daft. She's not breathing. I've just seen her. She's lifeless. And we heard that they laughed at him. Some were probably being quite angry and felt he was quite insensitive. But a bit like the messenger, these people just didn't understand who Jesus was, or more importantly, what he was capable of doing. So Jesus sent them all out of the house and went to see the girl with just Jairus, his wife, plus his disciples. And we read the wonderful outcome of the story. Jesus took her by the hand and said, "Little girl, I say to you, get up." And there and then she stood up. This young girl, the treasure of her father Jairus' eyes, who a few minutes before was lying dead on the bed, was now alive and walking round the room. Jesus had brought her back from the dead. What a miracle. And what a roller coaster of emotions for Jairus too. All coming from him having faith that Jesus and trusting that he would heal his daughter. So let me read that definition of faith that I read out earlier. So faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. The hope that's mentioned here is a hope that's more than just wanting something to happen, but instead it's a hope of certainty based on the promises God gives us. A hope we often turn to as a living hope, and a hope that's built on us having the faith that we've heard about today. Now Olivia's going to sing us a song. The words of this will be displayed on the screen, so just read them and reflect on them as she sings.
How great the chasm that lay between us, how high the mountain I could not climb. In desperation I turned to heaven and spoke your name into the night. Then through the darkness your loving kindness tore through the shadows of my soul. The work is finished, the end is written. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Who could imagine so great a mercy? What heart could fathom such boundless grace? The God of ages stepped down from glory to wear my sin and bear my shame. The cross has spoken, I am forgiven. The King of Kings calls me his own. Beautiful Savior, I'm yours forever. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name.
Thanks, Olivia. That song started with the words, "How great the chasm that lay between us. How high the mountain I could not climb. In desperation, I turned to heaven and spoke your name into the night." Words probably very similar to the situation experienced by Jairus and the sick woman in the story we've read today. A situation seemingly beyond their control. A time when in desperation, they reached out to Jesus. So is this where you're at today? Have you tried to free yourself from challenges in your life, but are finding no way out? Are you struggling with things and just desperate for that miraculous change in your life? If you are, and you're willing to reach out to Jesus today, then have the faith that he will help you. Can I ask you to pray with me now? Dear God, I thank you for the words of this story, whereby through faith we read of the radical transformation of these people's lives. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to have an active relationship with you. Thank you for caring enough to want the absolute best for us. Lord, there'll be many of us watching this broadcast who are struggling with difficulties and challenges that just seem beyond us. I pray now, Lord, that you'll step into these circumstances and bring about restoration. Please help us to have faith and the confidence in you and the promises you've made for us. Amen.
Thank you for joining us this week. If you'd like to talk further on anything you've heard, or would like prayer or practical help in any way, then please contact us using the details that will follow on the screen shortly. Bye.